Breakdowns.
Welcome back to the Chill Sounds and Breakdowns podcast. We are on episode 96. I have a little thing up here now to remind me so I don't mess up. And if you read it, you already know who I have here today. We have the amazingly talented Erin Malone today, and I'm just stoked for you to be back.
Yay, me too. I'm super excited.
Yeah,
thanks for having me.
Absolutely. I told you, you're welcome back anytime, and you took advantage of that, and I'm happy.
Yep.
So how have you been doing? The last year has been crazy.
Last year has been crazy. Yeah, I was just thinking that it's been exactly a year since we came and did the Grey Bloom interview, and it's just wild how much growth, not just as that band, but also just for me personally, living here in Dallas and trying to get plugged into the scene more and more over the last few years. I don't know, the last year finally felt kind of got our footing here, and it feels more like home to me now.
Okay. Just
from all the opportunities we got to play shows last year, and just going to lots of shows and just meeting people and making new friends. It feels like we're a Dallas band, or I feel like I'm a Dallas musician now, which it's kind of weird to say because I'm not from here.
Yeah.
But it feels like home now, or more like home.
Yeah, absolutely. Because
cool.
When I look at it, the conversation we had here was probably one of the first conversation that we've ever had. Mm-hmm. And just to see that year of we've pretty much kind of become friends. We can see each other out about. But yeah, you have become very embedded into the scene where I feel like you are definitely not only just a contributing part of it, but actual part of the community. I think you've just put yourself into the community now where maybe before you were still feeling I'm still getting my footing here.
Yeah.
But no, you definitely feel like a part of it now. And it's super
that
awesome.
Means a lot.
which I think has reflected just in the support that you've received in all musical endeavors, which the reason you're back here today is because you released a solo album that I've been hearing about in the works for a while now. So so tell me about Florescence.
Yeah. So I remember when we had the interview last year, we were talking about it and you kind of mentioned it. And I was like, I don't know when that's going to get done. I don't know when it's going to be out. Yeah, it's been in the works for a while. So all of the songs, well, almost all the songs, and this is how I just kind of like to write. Well, and let me just this is a distinct project from Grey Bloom in a lot of ways. Musically, obviously, it's super different.
Yeah.
Grey Bloom is the darker, heavy sort of vibes, and this is kind of the polar opposite, where it's very bright, it's very uplifting, and not saying I don't incorporate that into my other stuff, but this is definitely there's a specific sound and a specific vibe that I'm going for that is very different from Grey Bloom, and I do that on purpose so that I can explore all sorts of sounds and creative outlets and that sort of thing. So with these kind of songs, I didn't really set out with the intention of let me write a bunch of complete songs.
Okay.
I kind of just like to play and come up with little sketches and riffs and ideas. And all the songs came from those, where I would just have maybe a 30-second to minute long idea. And I would take that and revisit it later on and be like, okay, how can I build off of this foundation and just create its own little world out of it.
Yeah.
So the other day it was cool. I went back through my Instagram and I was looking at some of my old videos that were the starting riffs or parts of these songs. And it was really cool. I hadn't watched them in a long time, but I was like, wow, the parts are pretty much exactly the same, but it's really neat to see how they morphed and expanded into what the songs became. And so it was kind of a longer process. It was 3 years ago now, because it's 2024. But over the course of 2021, that's when I really dove into pushing myself a lot more as a guitarist. I've been playing for just over 20 years now, which is crazy.
Wow. Wow.
And I am a self-taught guitarist. I've had like a handful of lessons in my life. But most of that time that I was playing, I was very much in my own little box and comfort zone of like, I'm just going to be a rhythm guitarist because I didn't want to risk trying new things and potentially failing at them. But of course, that's the only way to learn and get better at something is you have to mess up at it a little bit and then you kind of get your bearings. But yeah, 2021, like still kind of in the pandemic, you know, I bought myself a new guitar, that Fender Jazzmaster that I have in like all my videos. Yeah, I love it.
Most beautiful guitar.
But that guitar was honestly a catalyst for a lot of that change and growth musically for me. I just got that guitar and I was like, you know what? We had started Grey Bloom at that time as well. And I'm like, I'm just going to start trying to play what I've always wanted to play. And I'm just going to start pushing myself to do more and learn more because I know I have the capability to do it. But I just held myself back from like fear of failure for the longest time. So yeah, over 2021, I made a lot of videos.
Yeah.
A lot of videos for Instagram. That was before I was even doing anything with TikTok. And then yes, a lot of those are what I went back later and revisited, and that's what turned into the EP.
Yeah, well, I think that's how I got to know who you actually were. We're through a lot of videos of you just playing like most of those instrumentals that you were making. Because at the time, that's what I was looking. I was looking just for people who were playing like original instrumentals, and that's how I found a lot of the stuff that you did and discovered you. But it was really cool to see that translated into like what Florescence is now. But yeah, you're right. Like I feel like it's two sides of the same kind of uplifting feeling, but it's definitely a lot brighter side to it, which I was interested to see because I know you had released like one or two songs before that, and I had heard those before I had heard Grey Bloom, and I was like, oh, okay, like this is a transition. So I was in the back of my mind, I was always like, I wonder if it's ever going back to like writing something like this. And last time you were here, you were talking about writing something solo, but that's a really like beautiful way of looking at it as far as like just stopping the fear of like failure and just trying stuff. Being self-taught is awesome. How do you think that's kind of formed your style, I guess, in a way?
I don't know. Guitar is like the one instrument that like I love more than anything else that I do musically. I mean, I also sing, I play piano, I played flute in band growing up as a band kid. But guitar is what I've always been drawn to the most. And I don't know, I just really connect the most emotionally with like what I can express on guitar. I don't really consider myself much of a lyricist. I've written a few lyrical things here and there, but that's a lot harder for me to like channel what I'm thinking and feeling into an art form that I think is good.
Yeah.
And that I want to share with people. But when I sit down to play, it just kind of clicks and connects and just flows out so much easier for me. Like I feel like I'm not hindered by trying to put words to it, but I can just channel my emotions through the notes and through the sounds. So honestly, for me, it's more of like an emotional processing mechanism. Like all the songs and all the riffs that the songs came from on the EP, like I can vividly remember when I was sitting down and jamming those ideas and writing them. And like they all have a specific theme behind them, which is kind of evident in the title of the EP and the titles of the songs. But yeah, there was always something that I was either like a situation I was going through or an emotion that I was feeling. And I was just like, I have to process this and get this out in some way. And for me, the way I've always loved to do that the most is through music. But
I was wondering that when you were putting out, because I know you're a singer and you're a very talented singer. So I was wondering like if you were going to add, like this was going to be a solo thing where you were playing and singing at the same time. And I remember talking with you about it. And you were like, no, it's just going to be instrumental. But that makes a lot more sense when you explain that it's a lot easier for you to express whatever emotion you're searching to express through just the instrumentation of it. Like you understand that one a little bit easier. With that being said, are there any like that any songs on that EP that you know exactly, like, oh, this is exactly like what this is about, that you can share?
Yeah, I can talk a little bit about most of them, and just kind of like the overall theme. So, like the title, Florescence, it's not like fluorescent lights, but it's like fluorescence as in like blooming and flourishing like flowers. So that kind of ties into what I was saying a second ago about how I was in this time of like really pushing myself as a musician and just like experiencing like rapid growth as a player. Cause I was just like trying a bunch of shit I had never tried before. And I was like, whoa, this is really fun. This is really cool. And it was just like exploring and opening up like a whole new side of music and playing that I had never done before or explored before. So that side of it. But then also just like, in my own personal life, going through a lot of changes and a lot of shifting, that side of it as well. So like taking myself out of my comfort zone and like what I had always known and where I had always kind of like kept myself boxed in, and just starting to, I don't know, just feeling like a little bit unsatisfied with life in a sense, and being like, okay, something needs to change. I'm not really happy with where I'm at right now. So starting to realize like, okay, it's okay for me to choose myself. It's okay for me to say no to people or change my mind about certain thoughts or beliefs. I don't have to just stay the way that I have always been. Yeah. Even though that's comfortable and that's safe, that's also just a dead end a lot of the times. And it was for me for sure. So yeah, it was like this whole time period of where overall it was like a really exciting time for me. But there were also some times where I went through some really hard things, and experienced pain and like heartbreak. So some of the songs on the EP, let me first talk about Worth More, because that's my favorite song. Sure. That's my favorite song on the EP. And I've gotten a lot of feedback from people that that's their favorite one as well, which is like so amazing and special to me. Because I'm like, yeah, I feel like that's the one. But I remember when I was writing that, I had recently gone through like a little bit of a heartbreak, like sad, disappointing, letdown kind of situation. And just kind of feeling, I don't know, I think all of us, a lot of times more than we want to admit, we feel like we lack love from other people and also from ourselves, right? They're both important, and we need both of those things. So I just remember feeling like kind of sad and just like, oh my gosh, like, am I ever going to feel fulfilled in this area of my life? Like, am I ever going to feel love the way that I know that I want to, in the way that I think that I deserve to? And then just ultimately like coming to the place of like, even if like people are going to disappoint me and let me down, no one's perfect, including myself, right? But I have to give that love to myself first and foremost. And then I just have to continue to hold on to the belief and the hope that like, there are going to be people who will return that love to me, family, friends, any sorts of relationship. But like, I just have to remain open to that. And I just have to keep my heart open and like able to receive that. But first of all, coming from myself, like I have to set my own standard in that, you know, and like setting the standard for what I want and what I know I deserve. So like on that song, Worth More, the beginning, it kind of, it's in a major key, but to me, it feels a little bit sad in the start. And it is like, I was kind of sad when I wrote it, but it was coming from a place of like, my heart hurts right now, but it's because I'm like choosing to set a higher standard for myself. And I know what I want and what I deserve. And I'm giving that to myself. Yeah. And then as the song continues to build and build, it kind of opens up into like this big like cinematic moment at the end. And the whole song is just kind of like me metaphorically giving myself a hug. Like, or it's like a blanket. Like I want it to feel like a warm blanket and just feel like comforting when people listen to it, and just realizing like, I don't know, the things, it's okay to desire more for yourself. Like you are worth more than like the bare minimum from yourself and from other people. Like, you deserve more in all areas of your life, and it's good and it's okay to ask for those things.
Yeah, that is super essential and important, like to actually acknowledge that. I like the idea of like the like feel like a blanket, like you're covered, because that is, even when it makes sense logically, it's still like when you come to that realization, it's like, yeah, I need to love myself first. It's not the easiest thing to do, especially if you've gone a while without really taking that into account or taking yourself into account. Like I used to always say this, when a lot in like my early 20s, I was always like, I'm very selfish with my time, but I don't ever do anything with it for myself. Like I would think of myself first, but I would still hold myself very low. So like, I was only worried about like how stuff would affect me, but I would never like actually take the time to think that I'm worth the effort to do anything. And that was, and it was very true. And anytime like somebody would come along, and again, that bare minimum, I wouldn't notice it's a bare minimum because my standards were so low. Like anything was offered to me. It was like, oh, this is amazing. You know what I mean? Like somebody can love me a little bit, and I can't even do that. So it would feel great. But that transition was hard. I remember when I did it, and it's still hard. It's still hard, like on a, like a daily, weekly basis. Stuff happens all the time, and it's an active like thing to do, to really take care of yourself and be like, okay, what do I need to do to make sure that I'm good? Because it's hard to want that from everybody else, and the less love you have for yourself, the easier it is to think that no one can offer that to you because you can't do it for yourself. So it's kind of hard to imagine somebody else doing it. And then to add on top of that, going through like a heartbreak makes you, to at least for me in my experience, made me forget all the other love that I would receive from everybody else, because like the person that I wanted like to reciprocate that wasn't doing it. So I ignored everybody. I was like, oh, well, nobody else really cares about me. Nobody checks on me, this and that. And I'm like, it's not true. It's just not the person that I'm looking for at the moment. But once you make that transition, it makes a lot more sense, and it makes you thrive, I think, but that's crazy how much of that thought you're putting into a song, you know what I mean? Into like what you're playing. Like, that's really cool. That's why I was really excited like to hear this, because I'm like, I know there's stuff behind this and I want to know exactly. So that's like one of your favorites, you're saying, that track. Yeah. Okay. And then so which one other ones like are you?
Okay, let me talk now about like the opening track, Dust in the Light.
Track's a banger.
I love it.
How you start off with a banger? Like, I was like, God, I just turned it on. I just like switched it on. I'm like, oh my God, this song's so good.
Yeah, we had to start off strong. And I do think it is a really strong opener. And it sets the mood for the whole EP like super well. I have to shout out, well, lots of people helped me with this project, but my good friend Nathan Berger, he actually lives in Idaho, so he does not live here, but we've been friends for a while, and we've collaborated on a few music projects back and forth, but he's really the one who helped me get this, like, the whole EP kind of wrapped up and finalized over the last few months. He did a ton of work and helped me with this, so I have to shout him out. He did all the production and mixing and mastering for all of the songs except for Glass Heart, because that had already been previously released as a single. So like another friend had mixed and mastered that. But like all the really neat production and like electronic and synthy things that you hear on Dust in the Light, like that's all Nathan. And he's just like, he has such a cool musical brain. And I just kind of gave him my guitar parts and I was like, go crazy, like have fun with this, see what you come up with.
Yeah.
And when he like showed me that, I was like, this is insane. Like, so the reason it's called Dust in the Light, all the songs started out with just guitars, nothing else. And I literally write the whole song, structure the whole thing, and then we go back and we add in other parts around it. But with that song, I had the visual in my mind of like, when there's light like streaming in through a window and you can see like dust particles floating in the air or outside, you know, wherever. And then metaphorically, whether it's like you're maybe in your room and you're like cleaning, you're dusting, and you're just like kind of getting all the dust and cobwebs off of everything and just like cleaning and refreshing in your space. also the picture of like if you're outside and you're walking around and there's like dust being kicked up off the ground as you're walking and moving and going someplace like on a journey. Both and either of those metaphors are kind of like what I picture with the song. Is it's like I was coming out of a really, really long period of time where I kind of felt like I was just sleepwalking through life a little bit. And I was just on a path that I hadn't really chosen for myself fully. I had kind of just followed what other people had expected of me for a long time. So when I finally started to make more choices for myself and kind of remove myself from thoughts and beliefs and spaces where I was like, I don't really align with this anymore. So I'm just choosing a new path for myself. That was kind of what I pictured when I was writing that song. It's like, okay, metaphorically, I'm like brushing out the cobwebs in my mind. And we're kicking up all this dust. And we're like, we're going somewhere. We're going on a trip. We're going on a journey. And yeah, so I really love the way that song opens up. Like, I start out with just like single, like really sporadic guitar notes to kind of just mimic like little pieces of dust in the air. And then it continues to build, more and more and more notes come in. So it's just more and more of that dust being kicked up. Yeah. And then it kind of builds and then opens up into this like big fun dancey part at the end, which is just like, all right, let's go.
Let's go. We're on the move.
But yeah, that one. Yeah, I had a very specific like mental image in my mind that I was trying to convey through the sound when I wrote it.
That theme and the fact that it's the first song on the album is a great way to come into like that EP, because that's kind of what it felt. It felt like, now knowing it, it makes a lot more sense, but it was just like this opening up thing that felt like, because of the build that had gone into it, and like the build and the opening up felt positive, you know what I mean? Like it felt like this uplifting thing when I was listening to it, and I've only had a few listens to it, but it definitely, I don't know, it put me in the right set of like mindset, like to continue on with like the rest of the songs. I don't know, like it put me in such a great place, like emotionally, that I just like felt really good to like go into like the rest of the album. So I think that was an actually great job. But that's so cool how you visualized like a picture of it and like created a song around like that visual. Like that's insane. I'm just fascinated right now, like, because I'm looking at something being written as just an instrumental feature, and it's not something that I don't think I've ever like talked to someone and see like, oh, how do you like write like this song? Like usually I've always been used to the fact where someone writing around like a lyrical theme or something like that. Sure. So this is really cool to really like take into account how you can accomplish like these themes with like instrumentation only. And the production was something I was going to talk on, because there are a lot of like really cool parts into songs with like production. I was picturing, I'm like, oh, like I wonder like how this got done. So I was wondering. So you said what was their name?
His name's Nathan.
Nathan.
Yeah.
Nice. Okay. Yeah, that was really sick. I also like, he's in Idaho, so like you've made a lot of like connections like outside like of, well, first of all, like you're not originally like from like Texas, so but still like you have like, I feel like you have like friends like all over like the country now. And the cool thing is that you collaborate on a bunch of things with all these people. How has that felt with those relationships growing over like the past couple of years? Yeah,
we do the same thing with Grey Bloom. I think we discussed that when we were here the last time. But yeah, I mean, collaborating with friends all over the place is like one of my favorite things about the musical journey I've been on the last few years. Obviously, there's so many great people here too that we love to play with and jam with. But yeah, it's just like when and especially when it's people that you're friends with, people who are your friends and you vibe with them and they're also super talented and you vibe musically, it's like match made in heaven. Like it's literally perfect. So yeah, I feel like super, super fortunate. All the songs on the EP feature different people. There's a different drummer on almost every song.
Oh, really?
On this EP. Yeah. And I had various people helping with like specific parts. But yeah, it's just really cool because I don't know. I just love knowing everyone's their talents, their creative approach, and like having them all be able to put their touches on it. Just to me turns it into something a lot cooler than like what I could do if I was strictly doing it all by myself. Yeah. Because my brain also doesn't go there. Like I'm not a drummer. I'm not a bassist. Like, obviously the notes are the same as a guitar, but I'm not a bass player. You know what I mean? So for me to get this project to sound the way I wanted it to, like I knew I had to rely on people who were like experts in those things. And also with production and mixing and mastering and all that stuff, it's like, it's just so far out of my wheelhouse that I'm like, I'm totally okay with releasing that control to someone else and just bringing the songs to them and saying, all right, let's just collaborate and help me get this to a much cooler, better place than I could by myself.
Well, the trust that you build up because you are like friends and you vibe musically, like makes that handoff a little easier to be like, hey, like you were saying, like, you know, I gave you my guitar parts and like you do all the production stuff you want. That's a lot easier when it's somebody, again, that you have experience with. They're your friends or they understand you musically. You understand what they're capable of. Because that is sometimes I think a bit of an issue with people who are not collaborating as much and stuff like that is that people haven't discovered who to be comfortable with. I always think about like the time we recorded our first EP when I was in a band. It's like I had the biggest trust issue with releasing like any control because like again I didn't know the person that well. It was just going to somebody that I'm like, oh, I heard something they put out and I think it sounded cool, but like how comfortable am I to give you the stuff that I've written and make sure that you can interpret it in the same way? And I was very defensive about it, you know, at the time, but again I think it's because I didn't have like that established like, you know, friendship or relationship to be comfortable with, like, okay, you understand like where I'm going. Because I do feel the same way where I'm like, oh yeah, I don't know how to think exactly like these other categories. Like I have a DJ who's my roommate when we used to be in a band. He used to write like scratch drums for some of the tracks that we would do, and our drummer would be like, "You write drums like a guitarist," like you know, like right. And like somehow that made perfect sense. I was like, I understand what that is. Like, you know, like it's a different way of seeing like rhythms. And then I've seen like we had Jonathan Flores from Unity come in runtime and write drums for a song that we did, and just seeing the way he was looking at like note choices and things like that, and super quick. I was like, oh, this took like I think he came in and sat with us for like an hour and finished like an entire song. And this was like, I think one of the few times he was hearing it. And I'm like, wow, dude, how do you see this? But it's cool when you get to acknowledge that and you have like trust in people and notice, especially if you have like friends around you that are super talented and you acknowledge that. And I think it creates a lot more meaning in like the project that you're putting out if you're working on it with people that you admire, you know. But yeah, you also have well, I don't want to get ahead of myself. I don't know if you're going to talk about another song because I was going to jump to the end, but
let's see. Yeah, let me talk about Revival, and this is kind of on the same topic of collaboration. Yeah. So like in 2021, in this time where I was like making lots of videos, I also started doing quite a few like collaboration videos with various friends all over the country, kind of like the way you can duet stuff on TikTok. But this was before I was on TikTok. I didn't even know that was a thing. Yeah. So I was just posting videos on Instagram, and friends were like, oh my gosh, we should like, let me throw drums on this, or like, let me, and I'm like, wait, we can do that? Like, well, I guess we can. I don't see why not. So with Revival specifically, that one came together from like a couple different riff ideas, but the first and like most foundational one is like probably my favorite part of the song. It's kind of in the back section, and it's a short riff. It's maybe only like 20 seconds, 30 seconds. But this was also when I was like experimenting with open tunings for the first time, when I was writing all these riffs and stuff. And I'm a huge fan of Covet, Yvette Young. I don't know if you're familiar with them, but she's probably one of the best guitarists out there right now. But I was like really inspired by playing in the open tunings and a lot of the stuff she does like melodically and rhythmically. So I was like, I want to write like a little Covet type riff. And then I sent the video to one of my Instagram homies. His name's Joseph Galvez, lives in California. And I was like, just throw some drums on this thing. Because I'd seen a lot of his drumming videos, and I just thought his style was super sick. Yeah. So he put drums on it, and it was so dope. And that was literally it. It was like a 20-second guitar riff with his drums on it. And we like combined the videos, spliced it together, and posted it as a little collaboration video on Instagram. And that was like the catalyst of like what the whole song grew out of. And that was his one little part on it, but like that part was so crucial to the vision for the rest of the song. Because I ended up having some other homies help me with drums on the rest of it. And then the rest of the song, I pulled parts from another riff that I wrote and just kind of like all spliced it together and was like, okay, this is kind of cool. But that song too has a lot less production than Dust in the Light. Like Revival is literally just drums, guitar, and bass. Not a lot of frills on it, but I don't know. Sometimes when things are really like rhythmic and melodic, I don't want other stuff to get in the way of what's going on. So yeah, that was just another really cool experience of like seeing how a lot of friends like kind of threw their little pieces and parts together on that. And I'm really happy with how it turned out. But
yeah, that just outside like perspective from somebody else, like adding something to it, sometimes just adds that click to be like, oh, this makes sense for like the rest of it. Like I said, maybe when you wrote it, you were just being this as like the one riff and like, oh, I wrote this. This is what exists. That's like, maybe I don't have an idea for what it's going to build into. And then you see somebody add on something like drums and seeing like, oh wait, hold on. Like it can be like way more than this. Like, you know, you figure out how to build something together. But, collabs have always seemed so fun, especially when I started seeing more of them, like, I guess through the like inside lens of what that looks like, of what it actually means to like work with somebody. Like before collabs was me thinking like, oh, somebody just jumps on and like, you know, writes a riff over something or a solo over something or vocals over something. But the idea of collabing with someone and actually working on something together is what now seems a lot more enticing. Like, oh, okay, so you both like are connecting with each other and know exactly like where each of you want to go with it. But also that feeling when somebody comes up with something that you're like, I would have never gone there, and it feels right. Yep. Like that moment is amazing. Like in most of the cases that I've seen, in my personal experience is just like, I've had moments where like I've written something and I'm just like, I don't think this is anything, and then somebody is like, oh, what if, you know, you try this, and I'm like, oh my God, like it makes sense now. Like, how did you make sense out of it? But that's cool that you've gotten the opportunity to do that, and from what it seems like, pretty easily. Like you've created connections to like that you can easily like reach out to some of these friends and be like, hey, can you help me out with this? And it gets done. You know, that seems very. Just like a really, really like fortunate thing to have. I
feel
and
so
access
fortunate.
To.
Yeah, I feel so lucky to have all these friends that are just willing to make music and we have a good time doing it. But,
and you've had a few cool things. I know I got super stoked when the Fender thing was cool. Yeah. Like, that thing was like awesome. I was like, wait, hold on, what's happening here?
I know, that blew my mind a little bit. Yeah, I mean, I've been tagging Fender on my stuff since I got that guitar back in 2021. But yeah, it was like late last year. They just noticed somehow, I guess through the algorithm or hashtags or whatever, they found one of my videos I had posted literally months before. And they just messaged me and they're like, hey, we really love this video. Can we share it on our platforms? I was like, yeah. To be on Fender's radar is pretty fucking sick. So cool. I am really proud of that. It took a while to get there, you know, like years of consistently posting videos and tagging them, and like I didn't think or know if anything would ever come of it. Yeah. So, you know, you just have to like stay consistent and just do your thing, and then I do believe that if you keep at it, like the opportunities will come to you. So.
That is something that you have definitely personified. It's consistency. Like it's something that since I even like first found you on TikTok as like a random stranger on the internet, just playing guitar and just seeing like, oh, like there's multiple posts of stuff. And the thing that I've been kind of pinpointing into like what I guess content like makes sense to me and what I'm tuning into. It's when I see people just being like passionate about stuff that they like. So it really comes through in like, oh, I'm doing stuff that I like to do. Whether it's like playing like the original stuff or just like playing like songs that you like, that you enjoy. And it's like, oh, I learned this today. You know, I remember like when you were doing the live for like the Under Oath stuff, and I'm like, oh, you just really like Under Oath, and you're like playing along to it. And it's stuff like that that's engaging. Like if like somebody wants to talk to you about that, you're like, oh, I'm more than willing, because it is actually something that I like and care about. But consistency is definitely something that I've seen like from you in consistently putting out stuff and consistently like getting better, you know what I mean? And getting better and like putting out more stuff, and like your writing again is super amazing. Like being able to see this side of your writing was really, really enjoyable. Like after like mostly seeing like a lot of like the Grey Bloom stuff like earlier, and then going back to like something like this, and it just turned out really, really freaking well. Like I super like enjoyed it. Yeah. Yeah, but the Fender thing's cool. You've also like been touring quite a bit. Actually quite a bit. Yeah.
It's wild, dude. I went from having never toured in my life to doing 3 tours last year.
Yeah.
Which, granted, they were like small tours, but to me, it's still a big deal.
Yeah.
'Cause that's something I literally have like dreamed about since I was a kid. And I went through all of my 20s. And it never happened. And I kind of was just like, all right, maybe it's just not in the cards for me. That's okay. I kind of had like accepted it a little bit. And then we started Grey Bloom. And then I have to shout out Lauren also, because like Lauren is the big dreamer in Grey Bloom. And I'm a little bit more of the realist, but she is like, no, we're going for the fucking moon, dude.
Yeah.
Like we're shooting for the stars. We're aiming high. So, like, yeah, a year ago when we were doing that short little run, at first I was like, oh my gosh, are we ready to do like a tour? Like, what? But she's pushed us a lot, and I'm really happy that we did that. Like, we did it ourselves. We did that first little weekender, and it went amazing. And then last fall, we did a week-long tour in the Midwest with our friends in Secret Gardens, which we also made happen ourselves. And that was a great experience. That was our first, like, you know, longer, out-of-state, multi-state tour, and it really couldn't have gone any better. So I'm super happy we got to do that. And then I got to fill in with my homies Pennyboard in December for just like a short little run. But that was so fun because their music is great, and it's something that I really like and enjoy, and obviously very different from Grey Bloom as well. So like the vibes of playing that music and going to those shows, super, super cool. So I felt super lucky that they asked me to be part of that. It was a great experience also. I would go back out with them anytime.
Yeah. I was definitely wondering of like, I was like, are you filling in? Are you in Pennyboard now? Like, oh.
Yeah, it was just a fill-in situation, but I told him, I was like, if you got any more tours and you need somebody, I'm your girl, just hit me up. Yeah, they're great. It was great to work with them.
Cool. The other thing that I was going to talk about is, well, I don't know if you can talk about. I've been seeing little clips here and there about another project in the works, but I don't know. I don't know if there's any information available on it.
There's really not that. Doesn't even have a name yet, so there's really not much information.
But I've just been seeing clips of like some jams happening out with some pretty cool people.
Yes,
and
it's not like it's a big secret. I can talk about it.
I don't know,
but no, we've been posting some clips. So yeah, me, Jesse Guerrero, Alex. Oh my God, why am I blanking on last name?
Martinez, right?
Martinez. And then Dave Soimel. Oh my God. Please let me be saying your last name right, Dave. I'm so sorry. But yeah, like last year I was just like, I kind of want to play some more like screamo type stuff. So we just have like jammed together a few times. It's been really fun. Yeah. So we got some little demos in the works. You know, we're taking our time with it. We're having fun, but that's also really cool to be able to just like jam and write with other friends and just, again, doing something different, a little more out of the wheelhouse of the other projects I have going on. But yeah, I'm just like being here in Dallas right now at this point in time. It's like I'm surrounded by so many like amazing creative individuals and like people who are just good at what they do. I'm like, I don't want to take this for granted, and I don't want to regret like not taking every opportunity I had to make the most of this time of my life and pursuing music. So I'm like, yeah, like I'm really busy, but I'm loving it, and like I'm making music with lots of great people. So yeah, we'll hopefully be getting some gigs and stuff in the near future. I don't know. Yes. We got to name the project first.
That's still. I guess I've never heard what it like scrams. You like I've seen that word. I've seen it tagged like in everything, and I'm just like,
it's so funny. I don't know. Because every time I say
scrams
scrams or I see discourse online about scrams, it's like It's really just screamo. Like, why do people
I think
say
people
scrams?
were just saying.
It's like,
I was like, are they? Is this a funny way to say scream?
it's just a funny,
scrams?
to me, more fun way to say screamo.
That's true. Screamo's
yeah,
kind of
it
taboo
is.
these days.
Yeah. It's, I don't know. To me, scrams is like, it's definitely like screamo, post-hardcore, emo, adjacent. A little bit more like thrashy maybe, or like with a little bit more of like some punk kind of influence.
Okay.
And that's just my opinion. I'm not an expert on genres or subgenres or genres are fake in my opinion to begin with. So, but yeah, it's just like, I don't know. It's like See You Space Cowboy and that kind of stuff where it's just like, it's very nostalgic sounding to me, like kind of that old school, like early 2000s, like screamo type of stuff that we're kind of pulling some influence from. But yeah,
I'm just going to start yelling out the word.
Scraps.
The genre talk is always weird. Like anytime someone I'm like, I don't know. Like my genres now is like, I like that one and I don't like that one. Like, it's so weird to get into it. I remember being in a band, like people were like always asking, and I always initially I would go into like try to get like an in-depth. I was like, oh, we do all of this stuff in it, and I'm like, most people just want a generic thing, like,
know.
and then we just started. It's metalcore, I guess,
right.
like like I'm not gonna go into like what's like, because like I didn't realize this, but most of the time, like when you hear a specific genre, you relate it to whatever you know about that genre. So like. If you say something broad, like people are like, whatever band they associate with that genre is like, oh, okay, so you're like this. And I'm like, no,
It's
like it's
no.
That's why I'm just like, just listen to it. Like give it a shot, see if you like it. But I mean, it happens. The photo shoots you guys have been doing, actually the one for Florescence turned out amazing.
Thank
like
you.
that looks it just goes super well with like the title and the song, just seeing it all come together. I'm like, oh, those look cool.
Yes, shout out Faith from Pennyboard again. They freaking killed it. Yeah, I just wanted something super bright, obviously with the flowers and all of that. Yeah, they executed it perfectly, beautifully. Yeah, I'm super happy with how all those visuals turned out.
Yeah, those turned out really cool. Do you think you're gonna do anything else like with the project, like visually?
I don't know. At this point, it's like I love the project and I'm super, super proud of it. But also with Grey Bloom, like we're doing a lot this year. We have new music coming soon. We're touring more this year. So that is, I know, exciting. But that's kind of where my main focus is right now. So with this project, right now I'm just relieved that the EP's done and out. So I'm not even really thinking about anything else moving forward. Well, I do think I want to maybe release another short EP later in the year if I have enough time. Probably like an acoustic something, where it's just like same style but all written on acoustic. Hopefully I can get that done this year. But yeah, I mean, I'm DIY till I die. So it's like I'm doing the best that I can with the resources that I have. And also at this point, like I don't plan to turn this into like a live band or play shows with it. I'm not saying I never would, but it's just, with everything that's on my plate right now, it's just, I have to put my focus in other places. So we'll see. I mean, I'm open to literally anything happening from the project, but that's just kind of where my head's at right now.
I mean, you had it and we're working on it for such a long time. Now that it's out, it's like, okay, like I finished a big part of it. Like, let's see, let's just let it enjoy like the release. I mean, people like from what I've been seeing, like there's been a lot of like positive feedback from the EP.
It's been insane, honestly. Like I'm really blown away. I didn't expect the response that it's gotten so far. So
no, I think
really
the response is definitely equal, and it makes sense to me that the response has been as great as it, because it was very like an enjoyable like time, and it's something like you can easily play, because I get a lot of times where I can't, depending on what I'm doing. I was talking to someone recently where I don't have as much time to sit down and just like listen to music. I'm always having to do something with it. Like I maybe get a chance like once maybe a week to like sit down and do nothing else but listen to an album. But I really always have to be like doing something else. And a lot of the stuff that I listen to when I need to concentrate on stuff is instrumental stuff. It's like, it's the stuff that just makes me feel something without me having to like interpret lyrics or listen to lyrics, or even stuff that I already know. Like I'm still like paying attention to those, but like this, I just get to like be in it, if that makes
it's
sense.
more
Like
about
it's
creating like an atmosphere,
Yes.
and creating an environment.
Yeah, and that's what I definitely like. That definitely came through in the EP. Like I felt that like I know the blanket feeling was like over that, like, you know, that first song, but I kind of felt that like throughout the whole thing. Like I just felt like enthralled in this. Like it felt like you could feel music around. So it felt really cool. Yeah, it was a really well put together like project. But so musically, that's done. You're open to like what's gonna come, if anything comes out like through it, as far as like full band or other stuff that might come out. What else are you like currently like looking forward to in the year?
We do have new Grey Bloom coming out very, very soon. Like
I had to pick at that because I'm like, you can't just say that.
Literally, Lauren and I were just talking about like with this release of my EP, like that has started the ball rolling on like just stuff back to back to back to back for us for like a minute, which is really exciting. So yeah, we have a single which might be out by the time this is out.
Right.
We have a single. We're wrapping up our EP as we speak. That'll be out in the near future. More touring this year, just more shows and other really cool, fun, exciting things.
This is secret stuff.
I can't say it right now. It'll also be announced by the time this is out, but I literally can't say it. But yeah, and then
Sorry, I'm trying to get the scoop.
I know. So yeah, that's what I'm just most excited for, is just to keep playing shows and getting to travel and just more music and just all of it. Like, yeah, I've waited a really long time to be in this spot where I have these opportunities. So I'm just super, super, super grateful to be getting to do all this right now.
Well, I mean, like one crazy thing is like later on today, you're going to see Silent Planet, which you got to open for.
Yeah.
Like, that was also like another like nuts thing that just happened.
That was such a special, like, full circle moment for me and Lauren, because both of us have known Garrett and like Silent Planet, all those guys, for a long time. Like I've known them for like 10 years. I've been going to their shows like since when I lived in Missouri. They would come through Springfield and play like multiple times a year, and I would go see them all the time in like these tiny little DIY venues. So it's been incredible to see their growth over the past 10 years. When we watched them at that show, I was just in awe. Like I was just astounded, like seeing the point that they've gotten to just by being genuine, kind people who are obviously also incredibly talented, but the consistency, what we were talking about, they have been consistent since day one. And yeah, I love that band a lot. I love those guys a lot. Yeah. So yeah, I'm excited to see them tonight. Getting to open for them was just like dream come true.
I feel like the more just times come, I feel like you're gonna have a lot more of those like full circle moments with a lot of these bands. Like I got to see them last year. You're talking about like small venues. We saw them. We went to Lubbock because like the tour wasn't coming here, but it was like Dayseeker, them, and Moxie the band.
Yes.
Crazy lineup, and I loved every. I'm like, I love every one of these.
Yes.
And they played Jake's Back Room, which is this tiny venue in Lubbock. Like it's literally the back room of like a bar, like you know, and it was so like just powerful. Like that band is just so like strong to like listen to. Yes. I don't know, like it's a crazy feeling. But yeah, getting to open from after having like that like sort of history like for them, like it must feel just amazing. It just must be like little like things adding up to be like I'm doing like what I'm supposed to be doing. Yes. I feel like do you feel like you've had a lot of those moments like come up?
Oh yeah, and I mean I am a big believer in just like trusting the timing of things, not trying to force anything. If a door is closed, like it's closed for a reason, and then if a door is open, like go through that door. So yeah, we're gonna shoot our shot, obviously. Like we're not just gonna sit and wait around for stuff to happen. We're making moves and we're making stuff happen. But at the same time, like there's just certain things and certain opportunities that you can't force. And yeah, I think by being consistent and keeping that mindset and just trusting that like what we're doing is gonna pay off, I do think that more and more of those opportunities are gonna unfold, and they already are. So it's like really encouraging.
Definitely when you focus just on again, being genuine to like what you want to create, being fans of like the music that you're putting out, and liking the community that you're in and the people like that you interact with and are around you. Like if you feel comfortable with all those things, like you're on the right path. You know what I mean? Instead of trying to force like your way into, you know, a specific mold of something else. Like, oh, in order to have what I want, I need to be this specific thing. It's like you realize that most of the people that you enjoy like listening to or seeing, like it's because of that. Like I've become incredibly just attracted to like bands and acts and stuff that are just like absolutely genuine to like what they want to create, and that's become a bigger part of like what I search for in like anything that I intake. But like music, definitely like is what I stick to. Like, is it something that I feel isn't being forced? Because I when I took that advice for myself when I was writing, I used to, if I spent more than, I forgot what X amount of time I would say, because I was trying to force something to like write out and it wasn't working, I'm like, it's fine to let it go, you know what I mean, and focus on like something else. But that really acts as to just being genuine and figuring out what you want and what you want to do. Because at the end of like when we were in a band, I stopped liking the music that we were putting out. I'm like, why am I even doing this? You know what I mean? Right. Like it's I need to enjoy like what I'm creating and the people I'm creating it for. With that being said, I know you listen to a lot of music,
yes.
which is great, which is honestly like super great. I love whenever you do like your vinyl one. It's like, oh, these are like you customize them every time. Yes. I need more vinyls because that's what I want to do here, but I'm stuck with like the ones that I have. Okay. So what lately like have you been like listening to that you just love?
Lately, Callous Cowboys has been up there for me for sure. Like their EP that they released last year, it's just a 3-song EP, but like, oh, that's some of the craziest, most creative shit I've like ever heard in my life. Yeah. And I just love that band. And they're also just really cool people, super nice.
You actually introduced them to me when we were at Plus Fest, and you said that song, and I'm like,
because I said, wait, listen to this song,
and then I went and listened to it. I'm like, holy shit! And I came home.
Pushing the Pink Envelope, by the Callous Cowboys. Go listen to that song. It is crazy. It's like a 4-minute song, but it's crazy how much is in that song.
They're playing the Haltom side stage. That's gonna be fucking
with 68.
Crazy.
Josh Scoggins.
It's gonna be so fucking crazy.
I know. I will be there. But yeah, that was like my favorite song that came out last year. It was just inspired. Yeah. Like I don't know what else I can say about it. It's just crazy. But on God, go listen to that song. But yeah, Callous Cowboys, Silent Planet, their last album, Super Bloom, that came out last year, and they're playing it tonight.
Was it inspired Grey Bloom? Super Bloom?
No.
I don't know.
We had our name first.
No.
We had our name first.
I know, but that's what I'm saying. Did you inspire the album?
Oh. I don't think so. Like, damn. I don't think so, because Super Bloom is like an actual like phenomena of flowers and stuff. But anyway, that was also super inspiring to me, just like the way they push their writing and their production and stuff. Like obviously it's still metal and it's still heavy, but they incorporate a lot of pop elements in a really like unique way. Like no one else is doing it like them right now, in my opinion. Again, these are all just my opinions, but they're just like, oh God, they're just up there for me. But in terms of like my EP and my personal like solo writing, just post-rock in general, like Caspian, Explosions in the Sky, This Will Destroy You. Those are like the big heavy hitters for me. I also made like a cute little playlist of all my inspirations for this EP. Okay. So that's linked on my Spotify if you want to go check it out. But Covet, American Football, not all of those bands are like fully instrumental bands, but bands that are very like emphasis on the instrumentation and the composition and arrangement of parts, specifically guitars. Being able to like really compose like these really intricate soundscapes, but where nothing's like really busy or overwhelming, like everything just clicks and works together. And like we were saying a minute ago, creates that mood or that atmosphere for you to kind of feel or process whatever you need to in that moment. Obviously, there were intentions behind all of the songs that I wrote for the EP, but when people are listening to it, they can take whatever meaning they want from it. It's just kind of there to support you
Yeah.
in the moment as the listener. But that's why I love that style of music so much, and why I love post rock, and why I go back to those bands all the time, because it is literally like a security blanket for me, to just feel safe,
Yeah.
feel supported, like mentally and emotionally in those moments where, you know, sometimes when you're alone with yourself, that's okay. But sometimes that's hard, and it's hard to like face yourself and face things sometimes. So just having that sort of support in the background where it's like, you're not fully distracting yourself from what you're thinking or feeling or going through in the moment, but it just like, it gives you a little bit more safety to not feel so alone in that moment. I don't know if that makes any sense at all.
No, yeah, because I mean, I think all of us like have some relation to some band or some like genre of music or something specific that made us feel that way, like we weren't like alone. Because we had like in those moments where you do feel like, again, you are isolating maybe yourself from like people and feel like you don't have anybody. Like music for me has always offered that additional support to like, at least I have this, you know what I mean? I can play this and this is reliable, you know what I mean? Like I can play this as many times as I want over and over again. And this will make sense to me like at the moment, whether it's like something like where I used to play sad songs when I was sad, like to make me sadder, like, you know, like but it was still there. Like I knew if I could feel sad, like I could feel something, like, you know what I mean? Like it just, which me and Sierra talk all the time, because it's like, because I think she likes a lot more like positive like songs, and I like a lot more of the sad. It was like, you like a lot of sad shit. It's like, I don't know why, that just emotion just makes sense like to me, but and I'm like, I'm not sad. It's like, I just enjoy it. But there is something in security and just like, again, the reliability in music where like your favorite artist like is going to be there. Like if you have an album or like a specific song, there are certain ones that I'll just play like if I'm uncomfortable. I've had some where like, oh, I'm starting to get like super anxious, that I can play and immediately feel like okay again and safe it. So, and because you're right, you put your own like feelings and thoughts into that, and you can have like this whole mapped out like of what this song is about, but everybody else gets their shot at interpreting it too. And it's so cool. Like sometimes you'll get people who understand exactly like what you put into it, and then you have people that feel have something in it hit and they take it off in a completely different direction. Either one of those like still inspired like that thought based on something you wrote, like for whatever reason. And it just creates this connection with people that is why music has always been like one of the most beautiful things where I've seen for like building communities. That's why like I enjoy going to like shows and like live shows and just being there with meeting strangers and be like, oh, we're both here seeing the same thing, you know what I mean? And then even if I don't talk to those people ever again, like we had a moment like here with seeing this band or seeing whatever artist or listening to music, or with like online communities and stuff like that, being able to find like all these, like there's all these groups now where like if you're obsessed with a band, you can join, and that's all. Like I feel like it gives you a safe space to be as obsessed as you want, like about your favorite like artist. But yeah, music has always offered that safety to many people, so that makes perfect sense, like what you're explaining here. And I think this is an EP that's going to be added to like people's like that playlist for them, like that space. And you did an amazing job.
Thank you.
I'm glad it's finally out. It's finally out. Yeah. It definitely deserved to be out. Florescence out now everywhere. And we have some new Grey Bloom coming out. That's exciting. I'm just excited for everything that you have coming out. Like I'm like was excited when I met you, and I've just seen everything that you've been like doing, and it's just made my excitement just grow even more of like the cool shit that you guys are doing and that you're doing specifically. So I think you're just gonna keep doing amazing things. Like,
oh, thanks, friend.
Yeah,
Really nice.
yeah. But yeah, anything else you want to add before we wrap up here?
Go listen to the EP. I'm a tiny little baby DIY artist, so anything helps. But I really am so appreciative. Like I try to not get hung up on numbers at all. As a smaller artist, like they're not going to be massive numbers. So I really do try to think of them as like the individuals, the individual listeners. So to every person that has given this a chance and listened to it or sent me a message or shared it with anyone, like I am so, so, so grateful. Like that means the world to me. Every stream, every person, every number, like that blows my mind. That's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, when you think about it in the individual way, we're like, oh, somebody went to play whatever music they can, especially now with people who have access to
there's
everything.
so much music.
And
Yeah.
if someone's choosing to listen to something, yeah, I definitely appreciate that like a ton. But no, like I said, I think this one's gonna be on people's playlists like for a minute, you know. And yeah, I'm excited to hear. Hopefully we hear something else too at the end of the year. But there's a lot of cool stuff. Go follow everything that Erin's doing. We got Erin Malone. She's got her Instagram, her TikTok, her I don't know. It's just Erin Malone on everything, right? I think.
Yeah. Erin Malone 417.
There you go.
Let's
417? What's the 417?
Yeah, that was when I lived in Springfield.
Oh.
And it just has stuck the whole time. Obviously, I don't live there anymore, but you know.
Makes sense.
Missouri girl, Midwest girl.
Forever. There you go. well, thank you again for stopping by, Erin. I really appreciate it. And I will, you know, maybe we'll schedule the next year already since we're keeping it a year at a time.
Yeah, let's go.
I forgot what's going on next. But yeah, check out everything that Erin's doing. Gray Bloom. Check out Florescence. And this is an episode 96 with Erin Malone. Thank you guys for listening. Thank you guys for watching. We'll see you next time.
Sounds and breakdowns.